Good morning, colleagues. I'm very happy to see you all here for this second meeting of the BOIE. You have your briefing books in front of you, and I believe that the first item on the agenda is quite simply the approval, if there is approval, of the minutes of the previous meeting. We'd like to bring up the opportunity for you to make any observations you may have with respect to the previous meeting. If not, no, I don't see any indication of anybody wanting to intervene. The second item, business arising from the previous meeting. Once again, is there any member here who would like to raise an issue? Thank you very much, Chair. Hello, I didn't have the chance to say hi at the beginning of the meeting, but I do have a question about things that arise from the last meeting with respect to accessibility accommodation for members. This is something that perhaps should be discussed in camera, but I would like to see that it is discussed in camera today. I don't intend to say more than that because I don't want to make a mistake, but yes, it is the request. In fact, is the second point, a request for accommodation from a member. And the letter that I addressed you, should I speak to it now? Is it dealing with this subject, another matter on another subject? Well, in fact, and I imagine rather that colleagues have noticed as well, since we've not been together over the summer, the services of interpretation and translation have been available. I've met with various people. And I've met with people from the House. For my members, I think it would be very important, and I think others would be in agreement. I think we should have an update from the administration as to the future direction. I see that there are contracts with freelancers, but during the winter of 2026, that may affect the matter. For us, interpretation services and translation services are important, as I discussed with my colleagues at the beginning, even before the meeting. It's important for us to be able to express ourselves in our own language, our official language, beyond any type of circumstance. But we also want, all of us can speak some English, but when it's very technical, it becomes difficult. There are terms that we don't know, and so it is exceedingly important that we have interpretation. I'm not an expert in the matter, but in the few sessions when there was distance interpreting, I see that there was a drop in quality. I don't want to speak for half an hour. I know there are colleagues that agree with me, but I would hope that in a coming meeting that we could have the experts in interpretation and translation before us to make a presentation and to tell us just where we're going. We're hearing all kinds of things. We don't want to drop in quality, and so we want to know what the follow-up is going to be. That would be my proposal, Chair. And, of course, that will allow us to express our concerns as well. We will add that, yes. Are there any other comments to this particular issue? Well, that will be for a future meeting of BOIE. The third item, delegation of the approval authority to employees when there are expenditures. We're all aware of what it is. I would invite Mr. Paul Saint-Georges, the Chief Financial Officer, and Mr. Fernandez, who also works alongside him in finance, to take the floor. Thank you very much, Chair. I'm here today to ask BOIE to approve an amendment to the policy with respect to delegating financial authority to employees of members. With the setting up of the expenditure management system, there have been questions about financial delegation. We have looked at the matter of delegation in terms of efficiency and control of finances. Under the present policy, members cannot give approval to their employees for certain categories of expenditures. Professional services, contracts, hospitality, advertising, gifts, as well as travel. So we could say that the policy could be modified to allow members to delegate their employees their authority up to a level of $1,000 for all categories of expenditures. If you were to approve this expenditure, our rules would be amended in consequence thereof.
Delegate their approval authority, and that they remain responsible for all expenses, whether they delegate or not. It is also too important to note that, even with delegation, certain restrictions continue to apply to employees. They may not sign contracts related to staff employment or professional services on behalf of a member, and also they may not approve their own claims. Finance services will continue to actively monitor key controls, including spending patterns, to ensure sound financial practices. Higher visibility categories such as advertising and hospitality will still require proper justification, and all delegations will remain subject to regular audits. Other compensating controls that are in place include, with the new SAP Concur system, the automated system checks, the embedded audit trails, and we also have policy-based controls to provide active oversight preventing irregularities. In addition, before publication, review of disclosure reports by members in finance will continue to test for accuracy. The enhanced audit features of SAP Concur, along with our policies, enable expanded delegation across categories while ensuring that risk remains well managed. The proposed 1,000 limit ensures that employees can manage routine expenses efficiently, while higher value items remain under members' direct approval. This achieves a good balance, giving members greater flexibility, maintaining strong safeguards, and reducing payment turnaround times. Mr. Speaker, this concludes my presentation, and I welcome any questions the board may have.
Are there any colleagues who would like to take the floor?
No, it's pretty straightforward. I think there's general agreement. Yeah, okay. So we'll go to excuse me, item number 4, update to the Board of Internal Economy's governance bylaws and rules of procedure, and it is our law clerk Michel Bédard who will speak to this. Yeah.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. We are seeking the approval of BOIE to change the administrative rules by which we operate to be able to provide clarity, keep the rules updated, and also deal with the administrative rules. There are 5 changes. First of all, the approval. The present rules deal with rounds of approval, particularly with adoption of the rules. Decisions were taken at times that did not deal with approval. Sometimes that was given by email. What we are proposing is to amend these 2 practices, having a consensual approach in terms of decisions taken by the BOIE.
Pertain to the threshold for certain decisions. At present, according to the rules, 5 members can adopt a bylaw via walk-around. That said, 5 members will not always represent a majority of members. The board may have a larger membership depending on the number of recognized parties, and this has occurred in the past, where the BOIE had 11 members. The proposed amendment is to require at least 5 members and no less than a majority to make a decision via walk-around. The same issue exists respecting the waiver for notice of meeting, and we propose the same solution. So 5 members and no less than a majority to waive any notice requirement. The third proposal concerns in-camera transcripts. So currently, only the public portion of board meetings are transcribed. By contrast, committee produce confidential transcripts of their in-camera meetings for consultation by members. The proposal will be to prepare confidential transcripts of in-camera board meetings that will be kept securely within the clerk's office. This will support accurate minutes, assist the administration in implementing decisions of the BOIE, and facilitate follow-ups, and enable BOIE members to review past discussions. If the board agrees to this proposal, it may also provide for circumstances where in-camera transcript will not be prepared. For example, when the board meets in camera with external auditors without the House administration being present. Le quatrième changement concerne le groupe
The
de
fourth
gestion.
change deals with the clerk's management group. The governance bylaw is not up to date. It does not reflect changes to the composition of the clerk's management group. Proposal is to update the bylaws with respect to 2 positions. And so the proposal is to reflect these changes to the 2 positions. And finally, what we are proposing is a change that deals with an inconsistency with respect to editorial changes. It's just a technical change.
Extensive policy shift. They ensure that the bylaw and the rules reflect the current BOIE practices. Note that the relevant amendments to the bylaw and rules are appended to the submission. And also note that the changes respecting the preparation of in-camera transcript will not require an amendment to the bylaws or the rules. A simple decision from the BOIE will suffice. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Garrettson. And then
Yeah, just a quick question with regards to the third recommendation on requiring at least, it says requiring at least 5 members and no less than a majority of members must agree in order to make a decision without holding a meeting. Is this to say that it requires 5 members to make a decision or the decision? Like, are 5 members required in order to agree that a decision will be made? Or are you suggesting that 5 members, i.e. a majority, is required to make the decision? So it's on an actual issue, not whether or not to deal with the issue.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's different than how we operate in here, though, right? Because in here, everything's on consensus, pretty much. Like, at least in the time that I've been here, I've never participated in a vote where that requires a majority.
So currently, and the issue we want to fix is that the bylaws, as they are written, only require 5 members. And 5 members, I suspect that it was a majority of members when the bylaw was adopted, but there might be circumstances where it will not represent a majority. There's a consensus principle that governs the proceedings of the BOIE, and it's self-imposed by members, but as any other parliamentary body, in theory, a majority will suffice to make a decision. If members want to preserve the consensus principle in the decision-making process, we could find a way to preserve that via walk-around.
Yeah. So, but it's a requirement of 5 members, but a majority has to be in favor. So that's 4 members. There's 6 of us. There's 2, 5,
6.
Don't forget the block. Correct, is that right?
The requirement of 5 members to make a decision and 5 members in favor to make a decision without a
It's
meeting.
more than a majority.
It's more than a majority now because the BOIE has 7 members. But what we want to prevent is an issue in the future where the BOIE will have 11 members, as it has happened, for example, in some past parliaments. So just to make sure that, for example, you won't have a decision that is made by 5 members who do not represent the majority of the BOIE. So it has no immediate impact. It's just to make sure to foresee any possible issues in the future.
Mr. McKinnon?
Yeah, just so following on that, the only one that, in my view, I think perhaps betrays the collegiality and at times candor with which we conduct our deliberations here is the one where transcripts and other records would be kept of in-camera deliberations. That I would put to my colleagues is, given the requirement to go in camera on delicate matters of personnel and other private matters that are properly dealt with in a private setting, I think would be one that I would be uncomfortable with. And I think that this is a solution looking for a problem, frankly. So I would urge us to not accept that recommendation while accepting and thanking the administration for its other recommendations with which we are largely comfortable.
Mr. Perron, Mr. Scheer.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the in-camera transcripts as well. There are times where there will be a decision that will be made and staff are in the room. There's also circumstances in which staff will not be in the room, but my reading of this would be that they would be able to then look to the transcripts to see what happened in the room. So I think that, like my colleague, I have concerns about the way that I see that it's written. We may not want transcripts at all. I'm not opposed to just striking that, but I certainly don't want a transcript that could be referenced by staff in a meeting in which staff had been asked to not be part of.
Would you like to respond to that?
The preparation of transcripts for the in-camera portion of meetings, it's an option that we put before the board. If the board is in agreement with the policy, there could be exceptions that could be made, and one of the exception that I mentioned during my speaking notes was exactly this exception when on an annual basis when BOIE members are meeting with the external auditor to ask administration leave, and if the board were to agree to the preparation of transcript, then there will, in all other cases, for that specific case, there will not be any transcript. There could be other situations. In the past, the BOIE, in only a few instances, have met with very limited number of staff. He could decide on a case-by-case not to prepare in-camera transcript.
That answers your question, or
Yeah, it does. I know that we don't keep the minutes when the auditors are here, but there have been times on personnel matters where the same circumstances have developed. And I think that there's a consensus over here developing that we would maybe ask administration to look for an alternative wording where we have a negative option where we don't keep transcripts unless we prescribe that a particular meeting has transcripts developed.
This is already the case right now, so the status quo is that no transcript are prepared unless the BOIE is making the request that transcript be prepared.
I think we're comfortable with that.
Monsieur Perron.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I don't object to hearing I don't object to changing the number 3 with respect to transcriptions, following what has been said by my colleagues. But I am thinking about the various walkarounds when a decision is not reached through consensus. It's something that is inherent in a board of directors to discuss decisions and to explain the points of view. We're all broad-minded people. We're open-minded, and you might just say, "Okay, now having heard you, I might vote for this." But we don't know anything about these rounds of consultation or walkarounds. We don't speak to each other. If there is a decision that is reached but not through consensus, that is a problem for me. I asked Mr. Bedell about transparency. It's mentioned, but it's briefly mentioned. I wonder if we could perhaps add a special mention, a note, that would say is about the principle of consensus. And if I think there's an available copy of what I would like to submit. Should I give you a copy now, or should I read it first? Well, while people are looking for this, and while it's being distributed, I think it's Mark who spoke about votes. I would have preferred to see the text that you submitted not go quite so far as it does with respect to walkarounds. But if my colleagues think it is justified that a decision that is submitted by walkaround is not consensual, that there should be an in-person vote that follows. I'm not going to push this too far, of course, but if there were any agreement in this direction, I think everybody has the page that I'm distributing. It was agreed that the principle of consensus remains applicable to resolutions submitted for approval by way of walkaround. Such a resolution is considered adopted only once all the members of the board have expressed their agreement, unless members expressly request the clerk to conduct a formal count of the votes, up to 5 or the majority of members. And I think it's just clearer the way it's drafted here on the paper. In a vote, whether it's in person, in a meeting, or online, you're going to understand why I'm saying this when we get into the part of the meeting that will be in camera a little later on, because I will be speaking to a decision that was reached through a walk-around. So this is what I am proposing. You have the sheet. That would be an amendment. I had Mr. Scheer on the list, but I think that we can discuss your proposal and then come back to Mr. Scheer. Or do you wish to speak to this or a previous topic that we were debating?
So why don't we discuss this first, and then we'll go to you on the transcripts. Yeah. Alors, sur la proposition de Monsieur Perron.
All right, on Mr. Perron's proposal, Mr. McKinnon, I think it's essentially a description of the status quo. The draft that I have here, perhaps we could look at it a bit more closely because Mr. Perron, because you just distributed it, we just got it. But I think that perhaps we could postpone consideration of this matter to a future meeting. I don't think we're ready really to consider it or to enshrine it in any way today. Mr. Perron, you were saying you want to amend your text. It would be an addition. Just to clarify, Mr. Leader he's quite right. It is more or less the status quo, but I think it expresses it more clearly. It expresses the issue more clearly. It's if you don't have consensus, then someone could ask for a vote. It's like a precaution. But if you want to take time to analyze it, that's fine with me. I think that when you take decisions, particularly here in this venue, I think that the discussion is important. Presenting arguments is important. There's the policy. You want a general direction. Maybe the argument that somebody else raises will lead me to agree or to move in another direction. That's my intent. I just want to be sure I've fully understood. If there is no consultation, a consensus, would we vote in person or not? Is that somebody can make a request, and then it would be done by email, rather, always by email, and they would to date walkarounds indicate that there's 100% agreement, but when something that is more contentious, then it's not really the subject matter of a walk-around. As you indicated, Mr. Perron, there would be a vote further to a discussion. But that would involve various people, and there would be a vote. Okay, we could do that by email even, but that's a very good principle. So if there are no other interventions on this matter, any other interventions on Mr. Perron's proposal? Mr. Scheer, then, on transcripts.
I won't repeat what's been said. I agree largely. I don't believe the practice at any standing committee is to keep transcripts when the committee goes in camera, is it? They do? Okay. But any decisions are minuted when we're in camera. All decision points are...
If something that's approved, if something was debated and negative, that's not minuted. But if something is adopted, that's minuted.
Okay. Well, I'd certainly be in favor of striking that recommendation out. And if there's an extraordinary circumstance when members of the board decide they want a transcript of something, we can quickly come to an agreement on that, I'm sure, and then proceed. But I think the status quo for in-camera meetings is serving its purpose.
So we're in favor of the status quo? Is that what we're saying?
Well, I think if we look at the 5 suggestions, I think 2 of the 4 there's agreement on. The one about transcripts is being withdrawn and not being proceeded with. And the one about walk-arounds, we'll bring that back at a future meeting once everybody's looked at the proposition from Mr. Perron.
Does that meet with everyone's agreement? Okay. Alors, on passe maintenant au...
Now we will move into our in-camera session. We'll take a pause, a few moments to transition to the in-camera portion. you.